June 13th, 2021. Episode 7. Will you be representing yourself? Fourth day of Flame Rule. Weather forecast: chilly for summer. The guards at Rivergate escorted us, cart and all, over to City Hall. Even the famous Kyokyojo was expected to accompany us, as the guard maintained that the entire group was to follow him. Once we arrived inside, the woman at the desk excused both senior Pomplades, allowing them to receive medical attention, so long as Moose was there to represent them. It had been hard to watch Kelmorn walk anywhere for the last few days, so I was grateful to see him finally be taken somewhere to heal properly. The woman at the desk informed us that we were being summoned for Malik's trial, at City Hall on the 8th of Flame Rule. It was just as I had guessed. When the guard had addressed me by name, it took me a moment to recall, but then I remembered. I had been the one to give the Alliance Patrol my name when we turned Malik in. I had started to put it together while we were following the guard. We all chose to accept our summons and agreed to appear in court, before being dismissed. Once outside the building, I commented about how I thought we would be going our separate ways, but turns out I was wrong. We then spoke of getting word to Varlo's Kyojo about our return. Kyojo informed us that he would let his brother know the news, but then Thane made mention of a reward. I don't remember Varlo's mentioning a reward, but I was drawing a blank on a lot of the details of that first day. The urgency of saving Moose's family, and hearing her pleas for help, were really what had motivated me back then. Surprisingly, Moose herself was the one who could recall what Varlo's had told us. I guess the agreement was that he would at least reimburse us for our expenses. So, from there, we planned on paying the Kyojo compound a visit. That, and we also needed to return the horses. We were all anxious to get home first though. Some of us really felt like washing up and changing. Not to mention touching base with family and friends. Kyojo stated that he would need some private console with his family beforehand anyways. He claimed to have urgent business to discuss with them. Which, I would imagine he would, after being away for so many years. Not only that, but I would hate to dampen his reunion with them, by having the awkward presence of our group to witness it. So, it was with that, we agreed to all go our separate ways for the moment, and then meet that evening in front of the Kyojo compound. Upon arriving home, I was not surprised to find my house empty. A bit of a mess too, but it was okay. It was honestly just nice to lay eyes on it again, after being away for so long, and for the first time ever. I made sure to get cleaned up, and find my finest robes, because Kyojo had instructed us to look presentable. Kind of rude, but I had sort of come to expect that from him, after spending those days traveling back to Secomber together. After cleaning myself up, and the house just a little bit, I made sure to make a dash to the library for work. I hadn't been there for at least a 10-day. It put me at ease to be in the library again. I already had a request waiting for me when I arrived, and I was quick to get to work on it. One regarding arcana orbs. Gil Leon was sure to find me right away, and I did my best to catch him up on everything I could. The good and the bad. We spoke of my trial for the Magus Guild on the 20th of Flame Rule. It was unfortunate that I had to let him know how unprepared I felt. I asked him if he had any advice to offer about a direction for it. He said he may have, but he thought it best he stay out of it entirely. He didn't want anyone thinking I wasn't able to get in, on my own merit. Which honestly, makes sense. I'm just used to taking direction, but this is something I need to do on my own. Once the work was done, I hung out at the library right up until I had to leave that evening. I chose to take one of the books I had been reading on arcana orbs with me, reading it as I walked. Upon arriving at the courtyard, most everyone had already beaten me there. Kyojo was pacing around impatiently, and Svend had brought a large fish. Like a still wet fish, on the hook. Moose gave Varlo's the list of our expenses. I was impressed with how organized it was. I guess she's really good when it comes to numbers. I think Varlo's was impressed as well, and because we were successful, he also gave us each some gold as a reward. Kyojo did not seem to care. In fact, He was damn near ready to leave while grumbling to himself over something, when his parents finally returned. Remember when I mentioned not wishing, or wanting to be prying eyes at the Kyojo family's tearful reunion? Well, we hadn't realized that he had yet to see his parents until that moment. His mother was crying and holding him tightly, but Kyojo seemed more concerned with other things. His father demanded they feast. He even called for someone to cook the fish Svend had brought with him. And yes, I noticed him giving me an arrogant smirk over his gift. Upon entering the manor for the feast, I couldn't help but notice the large library. I was trying to get a better look at it, when Kyojo closed the large doors right in front of me. He was in there speaking with his father. And well, I'll admit it. I started eavesdropping on their conversations some. Varlos even walked up and caught me, as I was doing so. I told him I had just wanted to see the library. He seemed to accept that excuse. It wasn't untrue. He went inside and I followed him, my head swiveling around to take it in. A library in Secomber I had never seen before. Consider me excited to be there. From my understanding, Kyojo is the 12th blade and is meant to take the helm of his family on, but he is too fascinated with other ventures right now to do that. Such as figuring out what the arcane focus on the end of his sword is all about. In order to do that, he believes he has to sort of follow the story of the Kyojo clan's history. Tale of the White Dragon, the Kyojo family's namesake. It is said that the first Kyojo befriended a white dragon, as he was there for its hatching. This dragon, and Kyojo's ancestor, had many adventures together, but their very last ended sadly. The two of them were caught in a devastating storm at sea. Relajavaic, the dragon, ended up sacrificing his freedom in order to save his friend's life. So Kyojo's ancestor lived on, but walked away a changed halfling. He now beheld magic, after never having wielded it before that day. So, in saying all of this, I must now explain Kyojo's plan for us. And I mean, us, as in our group. Our ridiculous, barely surviving, and sliding our way to victory on luck, group. His plan is for us to go with him, to find this dragon, and free it from a prison in the ocean. And not your average ocean either, but the sea of fallen stars. It's crazy, and for more reasons than I even want to get into right now. Kyojo then asked me if I would be willing to research everything I could on the subject of Relajavaic, his family's history and the Sea of Fallen Stars. He offered me a room at the house, and mentioned that I would have full access to the library, and anything else I would need for the next several days. Right up until the trial. I'm a little ashamed to admit that I agreed, even though I think this quest is insane. What can I say? I'm not going to turn down a chance to check out the Kyojo clan's private library. There's likely a lot there that I don't know about. I don't want to turn a blind eye to that opportunity. After that though, I could hardly eat. My stomach was in knots about what he was suggesting we do. Thane noticed how I was acting. I sort of muttered an explanation to him, but I'm sure I failed to really get it across. Kairax seemed to have made friends with Kyojo's mother, and she offered us more reward as a result. Some more gold, I think. While Svend made friends with his sister. Moose told me of her reunion with her uncle, and mentioned that he was with her parents. She was going to go see them next. I told her of the proposal I had been offered, and what I would be doing for the next few days. She agreed she would come over and help me, when she had the time. As night fell and the rest of my comrades left, I used one of the rooms they offered me for the night. What a lovely room. And I was so tired from the journey back home. I've probably never slept so well in my life. The next morning, I was in the library as soon as I could be. The next few days I did little more than study, focusing heavily on the report I would present to Kyojo. Moose would often stop by and check on me, allowing my eyes a break, and she would make sure I was eating. The servants were also really kind and helpful with that. Sometimes I get carried away when working on things like this, and I won't even stop to eat or sleep. Moose also told me of how Kelmorn and Mincy were doing. Sadly, Kelmorn has permanent damage in his legs. Moose tried to brighten the news by adding that her father was just happy to be alive. And he was even more pleased that his family had made it through that horrible ordeal. His spirit not dampened, as I would expect of him. The night before the trial, Kyokyojo and I met up, so I could give him my report. We discussed what we would be doing, going forwards. He was adamant in trying to get me and the group to go with him on this venture, given we get our licenses. I told him I didn't think we were even close to ready, but if I was to agree to go, I would only go with the same crew I had come to know. Only because I feel like I can trust them now, especially when it counts. I think each one of them has probably saved my life at least once now. The two of us agreed we would need to speak to them after the trial. Finally, the 8th of Flame Rule arrived, and we appeared at the trial. Malik was stone-faced the entire time. We first heard the report from the Alliance patrol I had spoken with, and how we went about turning Malik in. Followed by Kelmorn, who was in a wheelchair, Mincy and Kyokyojo's account. They had little to offer other than how we had gone to rescue them. Once those three had spoken their piece, we were asked to speak on our own behalves next. The mention of how we spilled blood and looted the cave was brought up. It was also mentioned how most of us did not have our adventuring licenses. Malik finally chose to say words, if only to spite our group, in the hopes that it would seal our fates. I mentioned how Varlos had sent us on this quest, and I hadn't known I would need the license to go. Was I to refuse a request from someone with the level of prestige that the Kyojo clan has in Secomber? I would have thought a request like that, from someone like him, was already official enough. Consider me obviously very wrong. I feel foolish about that part of it. The court requested proof from us about Malik being guilty. This wasn't something we had on hand, so instead I called out the Alliance patrol for not following up on the lead of where the cave was located. That, and the knowledge Malik himself gave us, so we could attempt to rescue the Pomplades. We could only know where the Hark's lair was, thanks to Malik. I also urged the court for sympathy, because we were only thinking of rescuing Moose's parents, and little else. I'm sure most of us were at least. We waited for the verdict, our anxieties high. The judges returned with a verdict of having found Malik guilty. He was to serve 7 years of hard labor. Upon the verdict, of us. They gave us a pass on this offense, but they told us we would need to agree to get our licenses right away. We accepted the terms and we were free to go. Thank goodness. We somehow skirted out of trouble. I really wasn't sure in the beginning. Upon meeting up outside, I let the group know we all needed to speak. End of chapter. Notes that Siluca doesn't or wouldn't know. Kyokyojo found a red orb after some venture with pirates. This orb fits perfectly on the end of his sword and makes it glow. It is an arcane focus, and it allows him to dig into his sorcery. Nothing happens when other people touch the sword with the orb. It only works when Kyokyojo touches it. Kyokyojo's grandfather could also do sorcery. The sword glowed red in his hands. He remembers the orb vaguely. Kyokyojo's father speaks of the tale of the white dragon. Companion of the first blade, is also Kyokyojo's father's namesake.